the International Association of Coaching. Home of the coaching masteries.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Brian Lowell French, and on behalf of the IAC Sustainability Team, I welcome you to the session titled IAC Sustainability, Equipping Members for Sustainability Coaching. We do have translations in Spanish and Chinese, and so thank you to Zona and to Mario for providing the translations. And to find those translations, if we would like to show the slide. You may click the interpretation button at the bottom of the navigation bar or the toolbar, and that allows you to select your preferred language that you would like to hear the translations in. So I'm joined today by my wonderful colleagues on the sustainability team. We have Anjali Nair, your IAC president, and she will be sharing information with you today. We also have Martha Pasternak, the IAC master coach and your IAC treasurer, and she will be sharing about how the masteries tie into sustainability coaching. And also very happy that we have Charlie Marshall Gnunu, the IAC regional coordinator for the African region chapters, and he will be sharing about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how we as coaches can help to support those goals in the coaching that we do. So today we will be exploring what it means to be a sustainability coach and how to build the competencies to make a positive impact in this space. As mentioned in the email that you received about the program, we will be discussing the IAC's commitment to global sustainability and equipping our members who coach in areas related to ESG. And ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. And those who coach in ways that support the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, known by the acronym SDGs. So specifically in this session, we're going to be covering these things. What is sustainability and how can coaching support sustainability work? We'll also be talking about the significance of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Also, we'll discuss the IAC's work with the JGSG, which stands for the Joint Global Statement Group, and our partnership with the Climate Coaching Alliance as well, and how we support them. And then we will explore how the coaching masteries can be used as a framework for supporting sustainability coaching. So to get us started, I would like to just ask the question, how do you define sustainability? And I'll ask you to type in the chat box your answer to that question. How do you define sustainability? So please feel free to share your thoughts in the chat box. And as you do, I'll share that as you will see on our new sustainability webpage, we are defining sustainability in this way. Sustainability can be defined as goals, actions, and practices that support the long-term viability of the earth to sustain life, allowing all living beings to thrive. It includes both the ecological needs to sustain physical existence and the supportive economic and social measures that create equity and inclusion, providing opportunities for all people to flourish. And we do have some responses coming into the chat box. Thank you, and please keep those coming. And when I think of sustainability, I think it's best explained through these two plants. So I have two plants that I keep here in my office because I don't have windows in my office, and I like to have some greenery. And you can see from this plant, it is not doing so well. I failed to take care of this plant properly. And I keep it in here as a reminder to keep mindful of the needs of all living creatures. So this was the plant that I bought to replace it. And I'm doing a much better job of taking care of this plant. This plant is flourishing. It is thriving. This plant is not. And when we consider sustainability, in all aspects of sustainability, it comes down to the ability to thrive, the ability to flourish. So we can use that as an analogy as we consider this topic. What can we do as coaches to ensure that all living beings and the earth itself can thrive, can flourish? So we would like to learn a bit about your experience within the sustainability coaching world. So we're going to be asking you to answer some polling questions. So I'm going to launch the polling questions. You should be seeing them on your screen now. And I will read the question and they will be interpreted for you. So question number 1, do you integrate sustainability topics within your coaching conversations? Answer A is yes with every coaching conversation. Answer B is sometimes when the topic presents itself. Answer C is rarely, only when the client brings it up. Answer D is no, sustainability is never discussed. So if you can select an answer for question number 1. And we'll be sharing the results here shortly after you have a chance to answer each of the questions. So moving on to question number 2, do you coach people whose work or life activities directly affects the sustainability space? Answer A is yes, I regularly coach people working in the space. Answer B is sometimes, I occasionally have coached people in this space. Answer C is rarely, and the tie-in to sustainability has not been clear. Answer D is no, I have never coached anyone whose work or activities affect sustainability matters. So that's question number 2. And then finally, question number 3, do you feel equipped to hold coaching conversations on sustainability topics? Answer A is yes, I feel fully equipped. Answer B is I feel moderately equipped. Answer C is I feel somewhat equipped. And answer D is I do not feel at all equipped. And you see that our interpreters have placed in the chat box the interpretation for these choices. So I'll provide another minute to allow you to click your answers in the poll, and then we will share the results. And as you're finalizing your answers, I would just explain that we're asking these questions so that we can gain a sense, we on the sustainability team can gain a sense of how we can best support you on the work in this space to better equip you to feel comfortable, to have these conversations when they arise, and to ultimately help you to help support issues of environmental, social, and governance, and the topic of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I see that we have a number of people who have provided the answers. So I'm going to go ahead and share results now. And as we see in the results, the answer to question number 1, we have just one person who integrates this in every coaching conversation. We have a number of people who sometimes do. We have 5 people who rarely bring it up, and a number of people who know it is never discussed. The results for question number 2, we only have one person who regularly coach people working in the space, but we do have a number of people who sometimes do and a number of people who rarely do, and quite a few of you who never have coached anyone who's working within the sustainability matters. And then for question number 3, we have 2 people who are feeling very equipped, fully equipped, and then 6 people who are moderately equipped, 7 who feel somewhat equipped, and 2 who do not feel equipped at all. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on these polls. It will greatly help us to better know how to best serve you. So now I would like to invite all of our panelist on to talk about just why focus on sustainability. When we started this journey, it became it became obvious to us on the sustainability team that we needed to help our membership to find ways to feel better supported in this space. So why do we focus on sustainability, and why did we ultimately create this sustainability team? And I would love to invite Anjali on to start the sharing. Anjali?
Thank you, Brian, and thank you all for the polling questions. It gives us a fairly good understanding of where we need to take this from here. Thanks, Brian, for setting such a rich context. The way I see it, sustainability is more of a philosophy. And I love what you brought in as an analogy, Brian, which is centered in humanity and development. It addresses universal values and needs. But what I wish to set the context here is, more in the professional space. So I'm going to, when you look at sustainability and this pure definition in terms of what its philosophy holds, these are environments you're setting up for fulfilling human potential. So let me zoom in a little specifically into the professional space, because that's where we are coming from. Why does this become critical? The fact is that organizations now are going beyond the narrow finance-centric model. They are widening their lens to include positive impacts on social and environmental outcomes. If you've been following the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26 or COP27 over the last 2 years, the message coming out has been loud and clear for organizations globally. And it is to align your business strategy to sustainability targets. And that's the only way forward for organizations to not just survive, but to stay relevant and to stay competitive. So what's the simple message here then? The message here is, if you drag your feet on this, you either lose your edge or you perish. So if you really look at organizations now, for organizations that choose not to factor in the sustainability risk, it is impacting profitability, their long-term, employee retention, growth, and survival. So irrespective of which profession we are in, it really doesn't matter. This is going to make a significant impact on what we do and how we serve our clients. Let me bring in, just quickly, 3 broad shifts that nearly all of you might have experienced or seen and observed. One is consumer awareness around sustainability. And, if you were to look at some of the recent litigations that have had pronounced effect on decisions that large corporates have made, it could be an indicator, which means thereby that investors are now looking at what Brian brought in, the ESG dimension. That's one. The second one, which to me has been very significant, and I think this will, each one of you, it doesn't matter where we are in the geography of this world, it is going to impact us, which are regulatory changes that the governments are bringing in, where legally binding net zero targets are regulating businesses based on how environmentally sustainable they are. So organizations now are required to not just share their intent, but rigorously track it, measure it and report it. So that makes a significant impact on what we are doing in our professional spaces. The third, perhaps, is the most interesting and the simple one. Look at the number of roles and jobs that have been increasing in the sustainability area. Take, for example, the CSO, Chief Sustainability Officer. And I would invite you to look beyond the Fortune 500 now. Why is it that these roles are growing at the strategy level in organizations? Just pause and reflect. Why? And the simple answer to it is sustainability is driving innovations, is driving investments, is driving job creation. So, and that's the truth. So irrespective of which profession we are in, this is a huge opportunity. So the question we could ask then is, how can coaches tap into these emerging opportunities and contribute meaningfully? This is a story that's shaping up, and we get this opportunity today to write our role in it. And that's unique because what coaches bring in are unique capabilities in terms of ability to navigate polarities, in terms of the systemic lens they bring into conversations, and providing that reflective space for what we call non-linear thinking, transformation conversation, which is one of the key abilities we bring in as coaches. And that becomes significant because I'm sure Charlie will speak more to the 17 SDG goals. The heart of each of these goals are what we say changes or transformational changes in terms of behaviors, mindset, and the way we act, what we believe in. And that's the space coaches operate so beautifully. Broadly, if you look at it, and many of you might be in spaces, leadership coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, career coaching, it really doesn't matter what space of coaching you're in. These are conversations that are coming up because the very definition of leadership and leading responsibly has changed. It is widening beyond profitability and people. There is a wider stakeholder lens. So with that, I'll circle back to the IAC and the role, all of that perhaps in the later in the conversation, but back to you, Brian. That's truly where this comes from.
Oh, thank you. So beautifully said, Anjali. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce Martha and ask her to just share for a minute or two about, why focus on sustainability and why did we as a sustainability team choose to do this for the IAC. Martha?
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Anjali. I just appreciated every single word you said. What jumped out at me in what you said is you mentioned organizations and transformation. For me, organizations are very simply a gathering of people. They come together for a reason, whatever their reason is, their livelihood or their passions or whatever it is. The other word that jumped out at me was transformation. For me, I am passionate about these sustainable goals, UN sustainable goals, because I'm a grandmother. And I'm at the end of my career, as I've known it, because I have my sight on the grandchildren, my grandchildren and your grandchildren. And I want to do what I can do to help create a beautiful and healthy and wholesome future for these kids. And that's really where my passion lies, to witness that transformation. Now, the other thing that I hold is that transformation doesn't necessarily mean change. Transformation does require self-acceptance. And so with coaching, what I do more with one-on-one coaching is to create a space where people can enter into their deep and powerful self-acceptance so that they can go into the world and do what they can do to fulfill their passion. That's it, Brian.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Martha. And now I would love to invite Charlie on to share his initial thoughts on why we have decided to focus on sustainability as a team and talk a little bit about the formation of the Sustainability Committee itself. Charlie? See, looks like you're muted, Charlie. There we are.
Yeah, thanks. I think what we are now tossing on is very critical for just building on what Anjali and Martha just said, to express the fact that I think we feel, all of us, that taking sustainability as a critical aspect of our life, not only our profession, is becoming a must. And I think in this case, when we decided to build our team, our committee, I think we felt the need to be part of a dynamic that is global, not only in the coaching profession, but especially in in every sphere where we learn. Because wherever you go today, you see clearly that sustainability is a key approach that you can't escape. You can run from, because it follows you. Or maybe we could even say that you face it wherever you go. And I think being part of the dynamic as IAC Sustainability Team is probably one of the best way, to bring the topic on IAC tables, IAC conversations, so that we ensure the very clear equipment of our members. Because when we did the poll, we saw clearly that there are members that are not equipped, to be part of this dynamic. And I think this is it's a mandate for the committee itself to ensure that our members are equipped for this, and not only equipped to serve their clients, but equipped to be part of the transformative dynamic that we are in for this world. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charlie. And to round out the topic, when I consider why focus on sustainability, my answer is this: if we don't focus on sustainability, there eventually won't be a world left for us to focus on anything. And as coaches, we are in a unique position to invite people to explore their own journey in sustainability so they can find their focus. And that focus will be different for different people, as it should be. I did want to share, before we move on, I did want to share on the screen that we have a brand new, it launched yesterday, page on our IAC website that shares a bit about our story and why we are on this journey. So if you go to the IAC website now, underneath the About tab, you will find a new link for sustainability. And on this screen, you will hear about the story of why we came to be and what our hope is for you, our membership. You will find a lot of links that you will find very useful. There are links to the Sustainable Development Goals site at the United Nations. There's a mention of how our Coaching Masters framework can serve as a primary tool for how we can coach in this space. And Martha will be sharing more about that in just a moment. You also have links to the full 2030 agenda. And here in just a moment, Charlie will be sharing the story of how the SDGs came to be and the hope for the SDGs to accomplish by the year 2030. You'll also hear about our history, and Anjali will be sharing this as well here in just a moment about how we formed with the JGSG. And there's links here that will take you to the JGSG site, where you will find a lot of information, a lot of tools, a lot of resources that you can utilize to inform and equip yourself. So this page will be growing. We also have links to the previous webinars that we have done as a team. We will be adding this webinar to this page as well. And the other exciting news is that besides this public-facing page, we are working on resources that will be posting in your members area that will give you even more in-depth resources of how you can coach within the sustainability space. So I would love to invite Charlie back on now to just talk about the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, to provide an overview and why we as a committee chose to focus broadly on this. We'd been doing some work in the climate space, which is goal number 13, but we as a group felt so important. It was so important that we focused not just on that one goal of the 17, but broaden the focus to all 17. Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian. You will allow me to share my presentation. And I think I have 10 minutes. So I started with this. Very great. Do you see my presentation?
We sure do, Charlie. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks for our team for building this infographic. And my picture has brought me some fame with my friends when I shared it on Facebook and elsewhere. So I tried to push this into August. A few days back, we had this, that we had our overshoot day, in August the 2nd, meaning that there is a kind of depletion of earth resource. And this was just for 2023. And as time goes by, we see clearly that every year we are shorter in the way we consume the resources of our earth, meaning that our topic is right on the time. And we are probably very serious about this. But where does this start? In 1972, the Club of Rome, probably you've heard about the Club of Rome. It's a group of like-minded people, academics and researchers and businessmen. They wrote a very controversial report called The Limits to Growth. And I think Anjali just talked about the fact that most businesses, or the mindset of coaching has to do with profitability. And then these people were actually saying that the way we are pushing our growth mindset will certainly put our planet in kind of jeopardy. And so we need to care. And this report raised a very serious controversy everywhere. And then the community, the academic community, United Nations, they started working to respond to the report, because the report here, we don't have time to talk about the report, but the report was very catastrophic. And so, but for me, as I read part of the report, I saw some kind of insight clues that we could build on. And then the United Nations decided to respond to the report. And this is an image showing, how resources that we have on Earth, the way we build our industries, our population growth, our food and pollution, the relationship among all this that build the system. And I think one of us have talked about the system now. And this reminds us also about the earthshot that we saw early. And this lady, who was the lead of the Club of Rome, she said, our mission has to be to think differently. That has something to do with our coaching. And I think Anjali and Martha, we talked of it a while ago, to co-design the alternative future that we want, based on the projection and the prediction of the report by Club of Rome. In this direction, the United Nations commissioned a Brundtland Commission. It was finally called the Brundtland Commission from the Norwegian Prime Minister that Gro Harlem Brundtland, that was leading this commission. And she was actually the one through this commission to coin what we call sustainable development today. And as you read there, sustainable development in summary is actually, solving the problems of today without jeopardizing the future generations, life. And that's where sustainable development started to be on the scene. But it was actually a response, an answer, bringing kind of hope to the Club of Rome report. That was very catastrophic to remind it. And now you see here, the World Commission on Environment and Development was actually a subset of United Nations. And then we started talking about our common future. And this also has to do with, the thinking differently, because there was kind of thinking that all the organizations, industries, and businesses and companies are just, building profitability while depleting the resources of the earth. So we needed at that time, to project ourselves, to see if the future that we don't yet know is guaranteed by the way we behave today. And then we were also talking in a while of our behavior. And then they started, because the Common Report, the Common Future was released in 1987. And then there was thinking in all those things. And then you see this listing 1992 with the Agenda 21 and Millennium Development Goals that we had in 2000, 2002, the Johannesburg Declaration. And then we had the SDGs that we are talking about, meaning that the conversation has been flowing, and some of the thinking or maybe the agreement were not sufficiently, covering the problems that people face. For sure, most of the reflection that has been done were done in the perspective of the environment. And we even say that today, that most of the time, the conversation around sustainable development has to do with the environmental lens. But in 2015, I was fortunate then to be part of some of the teams designing this sustainable development goal that was agreed by countries in 2015. And so we won't go through all this, but just to say that it was actually designed as 17 goals that encompass most of the problems identified then. And it's 17 goals with 169 sub-goals and 241 indicators, to make sure that we could really target all of these goals and know where we are heading to, and what we are really doing in between. And that's why, but these were actually divided. And as Anjali said minutes back, it actually concerns three domains: the environment that you see here, the society, and the economy. Meaning that the Sustainable Development Goals decided to bring in all the actors that are actually building our global space, to making sure that no one is actually left behind. And there you see, for those coaches who are more concerned about economy, that it's part actually of the Sustainable Development Goal. Those who are concerned about transformative society are actually concerned too by some of these goals. As you see, goal 1 is poverty, goal 11, goal 12, and all those. And then for sure, the environmental lens, because we sit somewhere, everything that happens somewhere on Earth. And so when I present all those domains of Sustainable Development Goal, it's just to remind that all of us are concerned, and that if the goal has to be reached, everyone needs to do their part. And then you see governments, the private sector, and civil society, and every one of us, coaches or whatever be your sector of coaching, you need to be part of this game, because you are part of the society. You live in an environment, and what you do has linked to profitability. It is not to say that profitability is pushed aside. No, it is just that profitability is actually put in a frame that is Sustainable Development Goals. So what do we need to make sure we are really involved? First thing is to have system knowledge. I think system too, it's a word that we know in our mastery, system structures. So we need to know what is the situation, what is going on now, to understand what are the stakes, why do we talk of Sustainable Development Goals, and what are the goals actually, what are the sub-goals. And whenever you read the goals, whenever you ponder the goals, you see yourself in whatever you take. And all the goals are interrelated. They are most transversal, because environment, economy, society are perfectly linked. So we need to know. That's where it starts. And then we also need to know what should be and what shouldn't, because most of policies, most of regulations today give incentive for unsustainable goals. And so we need changes in those places. But to change, we need to know. We need to know what should be and what shouldn't. And then, and this is one of the key aspects, and where I see cultures being very, very critical in this space, is the transformation knowledge. Because we need to know how we go from where we are, from the situation as we know it, to our target states. And this is where probably IAC can bring its own part, because we are professionals of transformation. We know how to bring people, how to lead them to effect change for themselves. And then we also know how to bring organization to think about the change, to go against, or maybe to surpass their resistance. Because as you know, to change what we do today, and that is profitable to us, for something else, as Angeli and Martha was saying, will certainly take require a little support. So for this, we need partnership. And I think that's where also being part of the Joint Global Statement Group is something very profitable. And we need more partnership too, even with the UN, to be part of the conversation. And it's fortunate that I'm currently, and that's my last word, I'm currently in Cape Town with the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, where we are thinking about what is needed to fit Sustainable Development Goal when it comes to data. Because as anything happens somewhere, we need data about what is going on everywhere on the planet. And that's the goal of the Geospatial Information Management System. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And I love the graphic that shows the interrelatedness, because that's when we formed our little team, and we initially were focusing on just climate. In our discussions, our initial discussions, it became extremely clear, extremely quickly, that all of the goals are interrelated, and viewing it through the biosphere, the society, and the economic aspects is a great framework for us as coaches to be able to understand that everything that each of us do as individuals and in a professional setting links to all 17 of the goals. And speaking of the history of how we got here and why we chose to move past just focusing on climate change to the broader goals and needs of the global society, I would love to invite Anjali on now to just talk about that history and our involvement with the JGSG and with the Climate Coaching Alliance as well, and that led to where we are today. Anjali?
Sure, thanks, Brian, and thanks, Charlie, for setting truly the systemic lens for this conversation now, the wide-eyed view of what impacts. And let me take it from here. In terms of the history, I will talk a bit about this, the conversations with JGSG and all of that, but I'd also like to bring in the fact of why IAC is on this journey and what is our role. I'm delighted to have Sean join in today, because the first conversation with the JGSG team was Sean and I had met up with the group. So wonderful to have you in today, Sean. I would like to share the slide first, like I said, more to establish what our role is in terms of as IAC and as coaches. And I'm going back to truly the basics in terms of what's our role as an organization and what are we trying to do here? What landed us here in this session today? So when you look at what our identity is, IAC is a coach certification body. That's our identity. That's what we do well. That's our area of expertise. And we do that through the frameworks, the coaching masteries, the values, core values, and our code of ethics. So, it's important to understand in what capacity are we having this conversation. Take a moment to just focus on the vision. Our vision reinforces that masterful coaching has the ability to bring change to the world in positive and very powerful ways. That's the value in terms of, so who are we serving here then? We are serving the profession of coaching and our members. That's our true identity. We are not experts in SDG. We are not experts in sustainable development goals. So we are not here to provide you with, hey, these are the toolkits. What we can offer you are possibilities. So this comes in truly with, look, take a moment to observe the IAC values here. These speak to the universal needs of humanity that enables growth, transformation. This is what enables coaching conversation. And you see this line in sync with what we've been talking about, the philosophy of sustainability as well. So where does this initiative come in by the sustainability team? This truly comes in our mission, where we talk about a highly accountable professional development model. We're not stepping in here to say, these are the 15 tools that will help you do a fantastic sustainability coaching conversation. We're here to talk about the framework, the tools, the techniques, the framework that will enable you for masterful coaching. So the only piece that IAC endorses here are the coaching masteries, the values, and the code of ethics. But then what do we provide? I think what we have is a treasure box of a fantastic professional global network of coaches. So the idea, or our purpose here is to support our members access information, curated information on the different SDGs and beyond, and definitely provide a space for networking with coaches globally. This is a space where we are saying, have these dialogues, because these are, like I said, emerging stories. It's a time to experiment, figure out what works, co-create, because there isn't much as resources that coaches have as of now. We are creating it for ourselves and for the future coaches. So what IAC team, sustainability team, and IAC as an organization is providing is this space for dialogue and learning. And that's the piece I wish to reinforce here. So, a quick flashback into the journey. The conversation started with, many of you might be already aware of the 2019 historic letter that was written with a wish list. This was a letter to the coaches. I think there was a 10-point wish list, of which one of them was a call to space for a dialogue and learning around climate crisis. So specifically focused on SDG 13. And around the same time, I think end of 2019, we had the founders of what is called the CCA that Brian referred to, the Climate Coaching Alliance, that reached out to us. Shan and I had this conversation with the team to look at what's the intent. And it was a beautiful conversation with two of the founders, Eve and Josie, both of whom have been a part of some of our Covadis webinars to bring in these dialogues. So why did we do it? Largely, we the collaboration, the idea behind this collaboration was, these are people who are experts in the area. These are coaches who are working in the space. These are, and climate action itself is what's called a wicked problem, a complex problem. So it needs multiple areas, experts to look at and focus on. So the idea for the CCA collaboration was largely to say, how do we provide this opportunity for IAC members to meet with a network with a wider pool of coaches if they wish to engage in this area? And parallelly, the story that was coming up was with the JGSG, which again is a historic conversation, because if you really look at any sector, look at plastics, oil, FMCGs, what you would see coming up are alliances between competitors, because one knows that, you can't tackle these challenges on your own. So JGSG, as Brian shared, talks about is the joint global statement group where 11 professional coaching bodies came in globally. And I remember, I think the first talk, Sean, you had joined in as well. And the intent was very clear. Let's collaborate, let's co-create resources to support our members globally, not specifically for one organization. And these have been fantastic conversations because you have seen what we tried to bring in are the roundtables, which started last year. So the intent here by the committee is to build in what's called a community-based professional development model, where you're able to network, create, learn, have these dialogues. And that's the space IAC will hold. And we are not coming in as experts in SDGs or sustainability. We are coming in as experts in the coach certification body with the frameworks and tools that is endorsed by IAC, the coaching masteries, the values, and the code of ethics. So with that, I hope I'm well in limit of time, Brian. I'm sorry if I exceeded a minute or two.
Oh, that's fine. This is a topic that it's hard to keep to our agenda because we are obviously also passionate about the topic, and as we should be. And we hope that is infectious, and that you are feeling passionate as well about the topic, because there is great debate within the coaching community of what we should be doing, what we should not be doing in terms of sustainability coaching. But the stories that you're hearing from each of us, I think hopefully helps point to that understanding that in any coaching environment, we're breathing the air, we are drinking the water, the ecology is there with us. The greater needs of the global society is there in the room with us. So it's only right, it's only natural that it becomes part of our coaching conversations, if done in a way that still falls within the framework of our coaching masteries. And I would love to invite Martha on now to talk about our coaching masteries and how they can be used as a tool, as the common framework for the work that we do within sustainability coaching. Martha?
Thank you, Brian. I'm telling you, passionate isn't the right word for all that's been said so far. Again, Anjali mentioned the concept of conversation, having the conversation, dialogue, and learning, and that's what we do as coaches. So let me share a little bit. Oh, brother, here we go. Here we go. How do I reduce this picture so I can get into my desktop, guys? Oh, there it is. There it is. I want us to take a minute, just take a minute and
Martha, we're actually not seeing the slides yet.
Oh. Okay. Take a minute to forgive yourself for not being able to do it all. Well, while I'm doing this, take a minute to take a few breaths and relax into what everyone has been talking about. Now, Charlie squared me away last time.
Yes, and as we're waiting for Martha to share the slides, I have been posting some links into the chat box, and our wonderful translators have been providing the translation. You will find on that new sustainability page links to everything that Anjali shared about the JGSG, about the Climate Coaching Alliance. You will find the link to the actual joint global statement that we signed on as one of the signatories with the other 10 professional coaching and psychological associations within the world to form that commitment, that global commitment. And as you've heard through the conversations with Charlie and Anjali and Martha, when we did start meeting as a sustainability team, it quickly became evident. And I think there was a key point in one of our initial meetings where we were talking about the needs that were represented within the climate emergency. And there was mention of, there are people who are hungry, and their concern is not 2030 at the end of the SDG period, or 2050, the target for many of reaching carbon neutrality. It's today, or it's tomorrow. And it was Charlie who said, no, it's actually today. People are waking up wondering, how are we going to feed our family today? And that's what led to this broadening of our scope as a team, and how we can and should and are compelled to help the greater society through the work that we can do as coaches. So Martha, if you're having trouble sharing, I would love to just hear your perspectives, even without the slide support, of how you see the coaching masteries as the framework.
Well, I do. And I wanted us to just take a minute to go inside and center in what is true for everybody. And what's true is that the very rare person who can do it all, very rare person who can do it all. And the gathering of the 20 or the 17 masteries, or excuse me, goals, I know I key into number 2, zero hunger, and number 3, good health and well-being. And in the past, I have been a healthcare practitioner. I tune into number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 14, life below water. I live on the ocean, next to the ocean. And 15, life on land. I look for clean air and clean water and pure soil. And therefore, number 13, climate action. But I do know that I agree that they're not separate from each other. So my invitation with the masteries and the values is to go back to basics, to really go back to the basics of coaching. When we get back to basics, we start to give our attention to the more simple and the more important matters at hand. And I have a quote that you can't see, right? We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. And that was written by T.S. Eliot, a poet. And what I have run in my coaching practice is both compassion fatigue and sometimes burnout. And for a long time, when I was young, and I've said this before, we were talking about sustainability. It's not a new concept. And my grandmother and my great-grandmother were talking about sustainability. What's different now is that we have the information, and we can transform that information into knowledge through our experience. With compassion fatigue, it's like, I can't care anymore. Burnout is, I don't care anymore. And I've experienced younger people who are so close to burnout. It seems so hopeless and so impossible. 2030 is 6 years away. No, it's not that far away. And saying, well, that's the end point. And we do that to each other. I care about the babies. I care about the children. And I've said that before. What is important? What can I do at this time for the babies? For the human babies, for the mother and the baby giraffe. Check out this family, father, mother, and baby, for the families that are trying so hard to feed and to create a good life for their families, for the vegetation, for the rocks, the sky, the water. How can we address that in the present moment? Anjali spoke of our vision. The profession of coaching is advancing. We see the profession of coaching advancing to the highest standards of universal excellence. And excellence starts with each individual. Here's our mission. I don't need to talk about that again. But we reach out, the IAC reaches out for aspiring and experienced coaches so that they can do what they can do and contribute to the evolving human potential worldwide. Our aim is to be an inspirational magnet for business, governments, organizations, clients, and coaches who want to learn about coaching mastery in practice. Our masteries, which if you're not familiar with them, please go to the website. Then I'll speak to them briefly. Establish trust, expand potential, engage with listening, process in the present, which is where we would as coaches deal or address or embrace, I should say, the hopelessness that many are feeling. Express commitment to the process, to clarify for each individual and for ourselves what is most important, and to set an intention that is possible, where we invite possibility and help create and use sustainable systems and structures. Our values are entwined with those masteries. Our values are trust, lifelong learning, compassion, integrity, inclusion, and responsibility. Not one of those is more important than any of the others. We see them on a circle. We see the masteries on a circle. I should say, where we can go into the center of the circle where our passion lies to enhance what it is we choose to do every day with every breath. What you can't see now is where I put I teamed up the values with each mastery, and I'll let that be part of perhaps the recording. So what's important to me is that we sit with our eyes open, that we address with our clients and with ourselves the notion of this is possible. We explore it, we look for it, we discover what's possible for each individual. As I said, every organization, every government, every team is a gathering of people. And so as coaches, if we talk to the individual and talk to them like they're no more or less important than any other individual at this time, then we have contributed to the world's thriving and sustainability. Sustainability consists of fulfilling the needs of current generations without compromising the needs of future generations, while ensuring a balance between economic growth, environmental care, and social well-being. This is basic. And I would also like to suggest that rather than balance, we look for harmony. We look for harmony among these issues, the economy, the society, the environment. Where can we be in harmony? Because in balance, someone has to give a little bit so the other one can get a little bit. That's balance. It's like the seesaw. But in harmony, we all have a place, and the balance is in place and effortless. Volvamos a los básicos. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. I would like us each to consider the element that is most important to you. For me, it's water. And so I invite you, each one of us, to be like water and find a way. And that's my presentation.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you, Martha. And like water will find its way naturally, we each can find our way naturally. I did post a question in the chat box that I believe the interpreters are interpreting for you. And the question simply is, how can you see yourself personally utilizing the coaching masteries to coach on topics related to sustainability? And would love to get some ideas flowing. As Anjali said, our goal is to create a forum for the sharing of thoughts. It's not to dictate that you need to follow this path or use this tool specifically or do things in a certain way in order to be, quote, successful in the space. It is for you to find your own way naturally. There are a lot of resources available for you. We will be compiling those resources within the toolkit that we put together and provide to you in the members area. But you'll find a lot of resources just through the sustainability webpage that we've posted through the JGSG, through the CCA. And I would note that the CCA has recently published a book, and this book serves as an amazing guide. And you can tell from all of the pages that I have noted, there's an amazing amount of tools just within this single book. And you can find that book through the CCA website. You can watch videos. I regularly watch videos from the UN, the United Nations. You can go through their site, and each year they provide an updated report on the 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals. And frankly, we're too far away. The pandemic caused a lot of impedance in the process. Having that knowledge can help us then to have the conversations that are needed with our clients, with our coachees as we engage with them on these topics. My personal mantra for sustainability work is to be aware, be informed, and be engaged. Aware of the needs, informed on the data, and engaged in the solutions. And I use that simple framework with my clients to help them to become more aware, more informed, and more engaged. And through that, they can find their own natural path to doing what they feel is the right thing to do for the space. So please continue to write your thoughts into the chat box. But we also wanted to gather your thoughts surrounding another question. And this is a key question relating back to the poll that we provided to you earlier. We wanted to wrap up this meeting with a better understanding of this question, which is, what resources would be helpful for you to better engage in sustainability coaching? As we continue to build out the sustainability coaching toolkit for IAC members, we want to know what you would like for us to focus on. And as we wait for your answers to come in for that question, I would love to invite each of our panelists on to share their final thoughts with you today. So we'll start with Charlie. Charlie, what would you like to leave the group here today with?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I think given the novelty of this for so many people, because most of the time when we talk of sustainability, we say civil society organizations, we say United Nations, we say those kind of organizations. So my view is that we have to build our own structures and systems, like Martha just said, for us to be aware, it is on the chart, you just put it, to be informed and to be engaged. And then it follows the categories of knowledge that I just talked about, system knowledge, to see where we are, target, where we are heading to, and the transformative knowledge that we need to get to where we want to be. And in my view, being aware means clearly that we need to look for the tools, materials, lessons. And I agree with Anjali that we are not specialists. At least some of us are not experts of SDG, and there is no need becoming experts of SDG. But we need to know that we are living in an environment where we need to be part of the sustainability dynamic. And in my view, there are a few little materials on internet. We will share it probably on our web page. The United Nations and some organizations has designed a little material called the Good Life Goals. Turning the goals in a way that goes, to what Martha just said. Using kind of little structure illustrations with water, with things like that, where there is an action for learning. For example, if I take, and I will finish with this, if I take goal 1, and Martha talk about this, help end poverty. The acts in the good life of goals, it's first thing, learn the causes of poverty at home and abroad. Second, share and donate what you can. 3, buy from companies that pay people fairly. 4, save, borrow, and invest responsibly. And then the end, it's demand decent wages and opportunities for all. And it is done for every of those 17 goals. And I think using these sort of tools for like a primer for those who are coming to this field, and to see it linking with the masteries. I see, being good, being in our family, as we say, and, building a mindset that is encouraging for all of us to be part of this, and to use that kind of mindset is something interesting, so that we don't get to use those complicated materials that we have, at least at the beginning of our sustainability journey. That's what I could say. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And now I'd like to invite Martha on to share your closing thoughts.
No, I don't know if my thoughts can ever close.
Your continuing thoughts.
It gets into me, and I feel passionate about it. And prior to my healthcare, I was a wildlife biologist. And so my heart and my soul is connected with the land and the goals that I pointed out. But I want to say again, I invite each of us to sit and center in what's important to you and go from there, move out from there, as Charlie said. We can't do it all. And we can help our clients sit and center and find where self-acceptance could use some love and attention and a great big hug, maybe a kiss on the head, and really get people empowered to move forward into what they care about. That's what we can do as coaches. And we know it's very powerful. It's not about getting someone to see it our way. It's about creating a sacred space so that they can find their way and move forward from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I love the invitation mindset. We're not imposing, we're inviting.
Mm-hmm.
Anjali, please share your thoughts as we begin to wrap up.
So, rather than sharing thoughts, I'd like to start with this invitation here. Imagine this as a blank canvas that we are painting together. We are co-creating this. There is no guideline handbook around coaching and sustainability that is, that's been there since ages for us to refer to. They are being created. So my invitation to each one of you who've been IAC members, who are passionate about coaching, is reach out to the membership committee if you wish to be a part of, engage with the team so that we are able to look at different perspectives. We'd love to have you in the committee as well, to volunteer and create this together for our members. We're creating the future together here. So, and I know of many of you, while I've had personal interactions, you're already in the space. What else can we ask for? That's a wisdom of experience we have in the room there. So with that, I know we have a minute to go. Brian, thank you so much for moderating it beautifully. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anjali. And thank you all for sharing your thoughts in the chat box. Please keep those coming in. We will be saving the chat contents and using that as reference as we take our next steps as a committee. And I believe I've shared with you what those next steps are, but I'll just reiterate that we will be posting this recording on the primary website, on the public facing website, so those outside of the IAC can benefit from your thoughts that you shared. And then we are working on the sustainability coaching toolkit that we will be providing in the members area. So my closing thoughts are simply this: we can lead with care. You've heard the theme of care show up throughout. And as a coach, I care for my client, for my coachee. I care for how they will be able to create a better world in their space, for their systems that they're involved in, all of those systems. If we care for the others, care for the group, care for the work, care for the self, and care for the world, we will be flowing naturally. I know that our tradition is to capture a group photo, so I will turn it over to, I believe, Betsy, to now gather us together to grab a group photo. Betsy?
Yeah. Juan, open the camera, please. Abrimos nuestras cámaras. Un momento para todos ver las sonrisas de todos a la 1, a las 2 y a las 3. Okay, wait a minute, please, Brian. Wait a minute. Okay, no. Okay, please, good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Betsy. Thank you so much, Anjali, Martha, and Charlie, for being with me here today to share your thoughts. And thank you to each of you for showing your passion related to this topic. And let us know how we can help. Let us know how you want to be involved. We wish you the best of days.
The International Association of Coaching. Home of the coaching masteries.